There comes a moment in every seeker's life when the questions grow louder than the noise of the world. You begin to sense that the way you have been living, the identity you've been carrying, the habits that shape your everyday, they no longer fit the person you are meant to become. It feels like wearing clothes that are too tight, or walking in shoes that belong to someone else. Deep inside, a whisper calls you forward, a whisper that says you are not meant to repeat the same cycles forever. You are here to shift, to grow, to expand into the most luminous version of yourself. But here's the struggle most of us face. We try to change from the outside in. We chase new goals, we repeat affirmations without presence, we hustle harder hoping that effort alone will bend reality in our favor. Yet the patterns return, the same doubts, the same insecurities, the same invisible walls, and so we begin to wonder, is transformation even possible for me? Am I destined to always remain this version of myself? What I want to tell you is something that very few people ever realize. Lasting transformation does not begin with what you do, it begins with who you believe yourself to be. Your identity is the soil in which all your actions grow. If the soil is rocky, full of weeds and old roots, no matter what seeds you plant, they will not blossom. But when the soil is nourished, alive and aligned, even the smallest seed of intention flourishes into a forest. This is why shifting your identity is the most powerful act of manifestation you can ever commit to. Imagine your life as a movie. For years you've been playing the same role, following the same script, reacting to the same plot twists. Maybe you've been the character who always struggles, who always doubts themselves, who almost breaks free but somehow gets pulled back. Now imagine stepping out of that role and choosing a new character entirely. The character who is free, aligned, magnetic, deeply confident and at peace with themselves. The story instantly changes, not because the world out there shifted first, but because you decided to become someone new inside. This is the essence of the practice we are going to explore together. It is not about forcing yourself into endless discipline. It is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It is about gently, consistently, and powerfully aligning your inner self with the version of you that already exists in the quantum field, the version of you who has already manifested the life you dream of. When you touch this practice daily, you are not just building a habit. You are literally rewiring your identity. And here is the miracle: when identity shifts, reality follows. The people you attract begin to change. The opportunities you notice seem to multiply. The obstacles that once felt impossible begin to dissolve. Even your body responds differently. Because reality is not responding to what you want, it is responding to who you are being. So let me ask you this: who are you being right now? And who do you long to become? Take a breath and really let that question sink in. This is not about chasing fantasies or forcing visions. It is about recognizing that the self you desire to become already exists within you. All that's required is a daily practice that awakens it, anchors it, and makes it real in your nervous system, in your thoughts, and in your energy field. For the next 30 days, you will not just be performing exercises, you will be undergoing a rebirth. Each morning, each evening, each conscious moment in between, you will be sculpting your identity, dissolving the layers that no longer serve you, and embodying the self that is already free. This is not a quick trick. This is not just motivation that fades after a few hours. This is deep work, the kind of work that reshapes the architecture of your mind and energy. And I want you to know, you do not have to do this perfectly. You do not have to fight with yourself or push with force. Instead, think of it like tuning an instrument. Each day, a gentle adjustment. Each day, a return to harmony. And over time, without even realizing it, you will notice that the sound of your life has changed completely. The discordant notes are gone. The melody is clear, powerful, radiant. As you listen and journey with me in this teaching, I invite you to set aside any disbelief that says, "I've tried before and failed." I invite you to soften the inner critic that whispers, "This won't work for you." Those voices are simply echoes of the old identity trying to survive. But you are ready to step into something greater. You are ready to rewire, not just your mind, but the very way you exist in the world. And it begins today. It begins now. With awareness, with presence, with the willingness to meet yourself at the deepest level and to choose, deliberately, who you will be for the next 30 days and beyond. From the moment we are born, life begins to hand us stories. Stories about who we are, what is possible for us, and what the world expects us to be. These stories are told by our families, our teachers, our culture, and later by our own repeated thoughts. Over time, they harden into an identity, a mask we wear so often that we forget it is a mask at all. We start to believe that this is who we are, carved into stone, unchangeable. And yet if we look closely, we see that this identity is nothing more than a collection of patterns, beliefs, and emotional imprints that can be rewritten. Think about it. How many times in your life have you tried to change something on the surface, your habits, your relationships, your health, only to find yourself circling back to the same place? It feels like walking in a maze where every path bends back to the same familiar corner. This is not because you lack discipline or because you are unworthy. It is because your identity, the inner blueprint, keeps pulling you back into alignment with who you subconsciously believe yourself to be. If deep down you believe you are someone who struggles, then no matter how hard you push, your reality will bend itself to reflect struggle. If you believe you are unworthy of love, your mind and energy will unconsciously sabotage every attempt to receive it. This is the illusion of the old identity. It convinces you that you are stuck, that you are powerless, that change is impossible. It whispers that your past defines your future, that your mistakes are permanent, that your limitations are who you are. And because the illusion feels so real, you accept it as truth. You wake up each morning inside the same story, replaying the same emotions, having the same thoughts, and you call it my life. But in reality, it is only a reflection of the self-image you've been carrying. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine a projector casting a movie onto a screen. The images you see, the story, the characters, the events, are not really happening on the screen. They are coming from the reel inside the projector. Your old identity is that reel. No matter how many times you wipe the screen, repaint the wall, or even move to a new room, the same images will continue to play until you change the film inside. And most people never even realize they have the power to change it. They just keep watching the same story unfold, year after year, and they call it fate. But here is the profound truth. The old identity is not who you truly are. It is simply who you have practiced being. It is a construct, a program that has been rehearsed so many times that it now runs on autopilot. Neuroscience shows us that the brain wires itself around repetition. Every thought, every emotion, every belief creates a pathway. Walk that path enough, and it becomes a highway. That is all the old self is, a highway of familiar patterns. And just like any road, you can choose to step off and build a new one. Yet stepping away from the old identity can feel terrifying. Because even suffering feels safe when it is familiar. The mind clings to the known, even if the known is painful. This is why so many people stay in jobs that drain them, relationships that hurt them, and habits that sabotage them. It's not because they enjoy suffering, it's because their old identity convinces them, this is who I am, this is what I deserve, this is the best I can hope for. To the ego, the cage is safer than the open sky. Have you noticed how your mind reacts the moment you begin to envision a new self? Perhaps you imagine yourself confident, abundant, free, deeply loved. For a few moments it feels exhilarating, and then almost immediately, another voice rises. It says, be realistic. Who do you think you are? That's not you. You've always been this way. You can't change. That voice is the echo of the old identity, desperate to survive. It will throw doubt, fear, and criticism at you because it knows its existence is threatened the moment you begin to see through it. And here is where many seekers give up. They mistake the resistance as proof that transformation is impossible. But in truth, resistance is a sign that change is already happening. It means the old self is trembling, cracking, beginning to loosen its grip. Imagine an animal that has been trapped in a cage for years. If you suddenly open the door, it will hesitate to step out. Freedom feels frightening when you have only ever known confinement. This is exactly how the old identity operates. It convinces you to stay in the cage, because the open sky feels uncertain. But let us pause and imagine the contrast for a moment. The old self is heavy, weighed down with cycles of doubt, scarcity, and limitation. It wakes up each morning already rehearsing worry, already expecting disappointment, already bracing for the same story. The new self, however, is light. It wakes with clarity and purpose. It does not carry yesterday into today. It trusts that life is on its side. It sees opportunities instead of obstacles. It speaks to itself with love instead of criticism. Which version of yourself feels more alive? Which one feels closer to the truth of who you really are? The gap between these two selves is not as wide as you think. It is simply the space between illusion and awareness. The moment you see that the old identity is not fixed, it begins to lose power. The moment you realize you have been living in a story, you also realize you can write a new one. And this is the invitation to stop rehearsing the past and begin embodying the future self, not someday but now. Your identity is the lens through which you see the world. Change the lens and the entire world changes with it. If you've been wearing glasses tinted with fear, everything will appear threatening. If you've been wearing glasses tinted with scarcity, everything will appear insufficient. But the moment you change the lens to one of love, abundance, and possibility, reality itself shifts in your favor. This is not fantasy, it is the natural law of perception and energy. Life reflects back to you who you are being. So as we continue this journey, I invite you to question the identity you've been carrying. Ask yourself, who taught me to believe I am this way? Who benefits from me staying small? How long have I mistaken old wounds for my true self? And most importantly, am I willing to release the mask, even if I don't yet know exactly who I will become? Because it is in that willingness that true transformation begins. The old identity will try to convince you that you cannot escape. But you are not the cage, and you are not the projector reel. You are the consciousness that chooses what story to tell. And once you awaken to this truth, the illusion begins to dissolve. Then, and only then, can you step into the daily practice that rewires everything, not from the surface but from the very core of your being. Change begins the moment we stop thinking of it as something we chase and start realizing it is something we embody. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is shaped every single day by the rituals you commit to, the energy you hold, and the self you choose to embody. That is why this practice matters. It is not a theory, it is not a collection of nice words, it is an act of becoming. And when you dedicate yourself to it for 30 days, you will witness your reality bend to match the new self you have chosen. So let us begin. Imagine that tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you are no longer simply waking up to the old familiar self. You are waking into a sacred practice, a daily meeting with your future identity. From the very first breath, you are laying down new neural pathways, planting seeds of energy, aligning your frequency with the version of you that already exists in the quantum field. Each moment becomes a choice. Do I rehearse the past, or do I embody the future? The practice unfolds in 3 simple yet profound parts. Morning alignment, micro shifts throughout the day, and evening reflection. These 3 movements weave together like the rising, living, and setting of the sun, creating a full cycle that rewires your identity at the deepest level. The first part is morning alignment. Before you reach for your phone, before the world pulls you into noise, you pause. You place your hand on your heart, you close your eyes, and you breathe. Slow, deep, intentional breaths. With each inhale, you are drawing in the energy of your future self. With each exhale, you are releasing the remnants of the old. You don't need to force it or visualize anything complicated. Simply breathe and call forth the feeling of the self you desire to become. Then, as you rest in that energy, begin to affirm, not with empty repetition but with embodiment. Say to yourself words that align with the new identity. I am whole, I am confident, I am worthy, I am love in motion. Speak them not as distant hopes, but as present truths. Feel them vibrate in your chest as if the words themselves are coding your nervous system. This is not about convincing your mind. It is about reprogramming your energy. Next, spend a few moments seeing yourself move through the day as your new identity. If you are embodying confidence, see yourself walking into conversations with ease. If you are embodying abundance, see yourself making decisions from overflow, not scarcity. If you are embodying peace, see yourself responding with calmness instead of reactivity. The key here is emotion. The subconscious does not respond to words alone, it responds to the emotions you embody. When you feel it, you begin to become it. This morning ritual, done consistently, begins to reset the trajectory of your day. Instead of defaulting to the autopilot of your old self, you are deliberately anchoring into the vibration of the new. And the more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes. Soon you won't just be practicing in the morning, you will be living as this identity without effort. The second part of the practice is micro shifts throughout the day. Think of these as gentle reminders, little check-ins that pull you back into alignment. Because here's the truth, life will test you. Old triggers will surface, doubts will whisper. You may find yourself reacting in ways that reflect the old identity. That's not failure, that's the moment of power. Because in that very moment, you have the opportunity to pause, breathe, and choose again. For example, imagine you are at work, and you feel overlooked or undervalued. The old self might shrink, spiral into self-doubt, or replay the story of not being enough. But the new self remembers, I am already whole, I am already worthy. So you pause, breathe into your heart, and gently shift your energy back into that truth. It might take 10 seconds, but those 10 seconds are where transformation is forged. Each micro shift strengthens the neural pathway of the new identity. Each time you choose differently, you prove to your subconscious that you are no longer rehearsing the past, you are rehearsing the future. These micro shifts can be anchored through simple cues. You might set a reminder on your phone that simply says, "Who am I being?" You might wear a bracelet or a ring that serves as a physical trigger, reminding you to return to alignment each time you notice it. You might even use moments of frustration, traffic jams, waiting in line, delays as portals to return to your breath and embody your chosen self. With practice, your entire day becomes a living meditation, a continuous rehearsal of the new identity. The third part is evening reflection. Before you sleep, you once again return to stillness. The mind is soft at night, more open to suggestion, more receptive to planting seeds. As you lie in bed, close your eyes and replay the day, but not as the old self would. Replay it through the lens of the new self. Notice the moments where you aligned beautifully. Celebrate them. Gratitude is the glue that seals transformation. Then notice the moments where you slipped into the old identity, but instead of judgment, meet them with compassion. Say to yourself, that was the old me, but I am learning, I am becoming, I choose differently tomorrow. Finally, visualize tomorrow. See yourself waking as the new identity, moving with ease, living in harmony. Let that image sink into your subconscious as you drift into sleep. In this way, even your dreams become rehearsals of the future self. When you combine these three parts, morning alignment, micro-shifts, and evening reflection, you create a cycle of identity rewiring that compounds with every passing day. At first it may feel subtle, small shifts, gentle openings, but then like a seed sprouting beneath the soil, the growth becomes undeniable. One morning you wake and realize your thoughts have changed, your reactions have softened, your energy feels different. People treat you differently, not because they have changed, but because you have. And the beauty of this practice is its simplicity. You do not need hours of meditation. You do not need expensive tools. You do not need to isolate yourself from the world. All you need is intention, consistency, and the willingness to return again and again to the truth of who you are becoming. 30 days may not sound like much, but when practiced with presence, 30 days is enough to rewire neural circuits, to shift emotional patterns, to anchor a new vibration so deeply that it becomes natural. Think of it like learning a new language. At first, every word feels foreign. Every sentence requires effort, but with repetition it flows. It becomes part of you. Identity is the same. At first, embodying the new self feels like pretending, but as you continue, it becomes second nature. Soon you are no longer pretending, you are living, and reality, faithful as always, rearranges itself to mirror who you have become. So as you listen to these words, I invite you to imagine yourself already on this journey. See yourself waking tomorrow with clarity. See yourself pausing throughout the day to breathe into alignment. See yourself lying in bed with gratitude, ready to repeat the cycle. This is not something far away. It is something you can begin now, in this very moment. Because the self you desire to be is not waiting for you in the future. It is waiting for you in the present, ready to be chosen, ready to be embodied, ready to be lived. The path of transformation is rarely smooth. The moment you begin to shift, the old identity begins to tremble. And when it trembles, it resists. This resistance shows up in many forms: doubt, procrastination, fatigue, even sudden obstacles that seem to appear from nowhere. And so many seekers mistake these moments as signs that the practice isn't working. But in truth, resistance is one of the clearest proofs that it is. Imagine a river that has been flowing in the same direction for years. The water has carved deep grooves into the earth, forming a channel that feels unshakable. Now imagine trying to redirect that river. At first, the current pushes back. It resists the new path. It fights to remain in the groove it has always known. But if you continue guiding it, gently and consistently, the water eventually begins to flow in the new direction. Identity is the same. The old self has carved its grooves into your mind and energy. When you begin to shift, the current pushes back. But this is not failure. It is the natural process of redirection. Sometimes this resistance appears as an inner voice. It whispers, "You're wasting your time. This won't work for you. You'll never change." It may even disguise itself as rational thought, convincing you that you're too busy, too tired, too distracted to continue the practice. Other times, resistance shows up as life events, unexpected arguments, delays, setbacks, emotional turbulence. All of it is the same pattern, the old identity clinging to survival. Because remember, the old self cannot exist without your attention. The moment you stop feeding it, it begins to dissolve. And dissolving feels like death to the ego, so it fights. But here is where the deeper wisdom comes in. You do not have to fight back. You do not have to force or struggle against resistance. The moment you fight it, you strengthen it. Instead, you meet it with awareness. You notice the voice, the feeling, the obstacle, and you breathe. You remind yourself, this is simply the echo of who I used to be. It is not a sign to stop. It is a sign to continue. Every wave of resistance is a threshold. Cross it, and the old self weakens. Stop at it, and the old self regains control. Let us take an example. You begin the morning alignment ritual. For the first few days you feel inspired, your heart is alive. But on the fourth or fifth day you wake up and the voice says, skip today, it's not that important, you can catch up later. That is the moment of choice. If you listen, you strengthen the old groove. If you pause, breathe, and remind yourself that this very discomfort is the sign of rewiring, then you take one small action, maybe just one deep intentional breath, maybe just one affirmation whispered into your heart, and suddenly, the resistance softens. You realize it was never as powerful as it appeared. It was simply a shadow testing your commitment. Another way resistance shows up is through emotion. Old sadness may surface, anger may rise, fear may tighten in your chest. Many people assume this means they are moving backward, but emotion surfacing is not regression, it is release. You are pulling up old roots so the new self can grow. Just like cleaning a wound may sting before it heals, the surfacing of emotion is part of cleansing the subconscious. The key is to allow it, breathe with it, journal it out, cry if you need to, let it move through you instead of burying it again. Every time you allow emotion to rise and pass, you create more space for the new identity to take root. There is also the challenge of impatience. You may find yourself thinking, it's been a week, why haven't I seen results yet? But understand this, identity is not rewired overnight. It is built through repetition, consistency, and trust. Think of a seed planted in soil. For days you water it and see nothing. Doubt may creep in, but beneath the surface, roots are forming, life is stirring. The moment you give up, the growth stops. But if you continue, one morning the sprout breaks through. Transformation is no different. What looks invisible in the beginning becomes undeniable in time. So how do we integrate this practice and overcome resistance with grace? The first key is compassion. Speak to yourself gently. When the old self rises, do not criticize yourself for failing. Simply notice and say, this is the old me showing up again, but I am choosing differently now. That gentle awareness is far more powerful than harsh discipline. The second key is consistency over perfection. Do not aim to perform the practice flawlessly every day. Aim to return to it again and again, even imperfectly. Some mornings your alignment may feel profound, other mornings shallow. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep showing up. The power lies not in intensity but in repetition. Over time, the repetition builds momentum, and momentum builds transformation. The third key is support. Surround yourself with reminders of the new identity. This can be affirmations on your wall, music that lifts your energy, conversations with people who inspire you. Every small reinforcement strengthens the new self. And equally important, reduce the influences that drag you back into the old. Limit the voices of negativity, the environments that drain you, the habits that dull your spirit. The more you clear the space around you, the easier it becomes to remain in alignment within you. And the fourth key is surrender. Trust the process even when you cannot see the outcome. Understand that transformation is not linear. Some days will feel like leaps forward, others like steps back, but every step is part of the spiral upward. Even the setbacks are sacred because they show you where the old self is still clinging. Surrender means trusting that each breath, each practice, each moment of awareness is adding up to a shift so profound that one day you will look back and hardly recognize who you used to be. So if you find yourself doubting, let that doubt be the very reason you continue. If you feel resistance, let it remind you that growth is unfolding. If you feel tired, take one small action instead of none. Transformation does not demand that you leap every day. Sometimes it simply asks that you keep walking. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time, because beyond the resistance, beyond the doubt, beyond the fear, there is a version of you that is waiting, a self that is free, aligned, magnetic, luminous. That self is not a fantasy. It is the truest expression of who you already are. And every moment you choose to continue, you step closer to embodying it fully. So when resistance rises, remember this: it is not here to stop you. It is here to test you, to refine you, to carve you into the version of yourself that no longer doubts, no longer shrinks, no longer settles for the old. Embrace it, breathe through it, continue. And watch as day by day the old self dissolves, and the new self becomes not just a vision but your living reality. And so we arrive at the threshold of this journey. We have walked through the illusion of the old identity. We have explored the daily practice that rewires the self, and we have met resistance not as an enemy, but as a sign of growth. Now, as we come to a close, I want you to pause for a moment and recognize something powerful. You are no longer the same person who began listening to these words. Something has already shifted. A seed has been planted, and whether you feel it fully or only faintly, that seed is alive within you now. Transformation is not a distant dream. It is not something waiting for you in a future life or in a perfect set of circumstances. Transformation begins here, in this breath, in this choice. The self you long to become already exists inside of you. It has always been there, quietly waiting for you to remember it. And with each day you devote to this practice, you are not creating something new. You are revealing what has always been true. Remember this: 30 days is not just a number, it is a container, a sacred window of time in which you agree to meet yourself differently. For 30 days you are not rehearsing the past, but rehearsing the future. For 30 days you are teaching your mind and body a new way of being. And if you stay consistent, even gently, even imperfectly, you will not only notice changes within yourself, you will notice your world beginning to mirror those changes back to you, because reality cannot help but reflect who you are being. Yes, there will be days when doubt arises. There will be mornings when you don't feel like practicing. There will be moments when the old self whispers, "This isn't working." But those are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are stepping beyond the familiar. Every time you continue despite resistance, you are proving to yourself that the old identity no longer has control. And with each choice you grow stronger. With each breath you anchor deeper. So as you step forward from this moment, I invite you to commit, not to perfection, not to forcing yourself into discipline, but to devotion. Devotion to the version of you that is already free, already confident, already whole. Devotion to the life that is waiting for you beyond the cage of the old identity. Devotion to living as the luminous being you came here to be. 30 days from now you may look back and realize that something extraordinary has happened. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you changed. Your energy shifted, your beliefs expanded, your self-image rewired. And in that shift, everything else rearranged itself to match. That is the power of identity. That is the power of consistent practice. That is the power of choosing, day after day, to embody your highest self. So take a breath and feel the truth of this moment. The journey has already begun. The only question is, will you continue? Will you honor yourself enough to keep showing up, to keep choosing, to keep remembering who you really are? Because if you do, there is no limit to what you can become. And now as we close, know this, you are ready, you are capable, you are worthy. The old self is dissolving, the new self is rising, and your reality is already shifting. Trust the process, trust yourself, and step boldly into the next 30 days with an open heart. Your rebirth is here, your new life is waiting, and it all begins with you.